Hey, my name is shawnshawn. I sell art on shawnshawn.co. Today we're going to review Tobias Brenner and his YouTube channel, Brenner Fine Art. So right off the bat, he has Brenner Fine Art, which I like. That's a very descriptive name. You know, painting, fine art, very similar. So those are really good names to add in your channel so people can figure it out right off the bat. If you just have your name, they might not know who you are, and it might be kind of a smorgasbord channel or a painting channel they don't know, so that's a smart idea. He has kind of one of his learning tutorials as the intro video, which I think that's a pretty strong setup. He has uploads, which is good, then popular uploads, you always want to have popular. And then he kind of subdivides it into humans, painting animals, how-to videos, painting nature, still life, and painting clouds. So a pretty good channel layout just from the top. Let's check out one of the videos. So this first video is called How to Paint Water, Realistic Water Reflection Wave Painting Tutorial. So very long. Let's see what he's got here.
Hey guys, welcome back. Today's video we're gonna paint some nice reflection on the sea. And this here is the palette that we're gonna use. 6 colors altogether.
So I like that pretty interesting start. You introduce yourself, you know, head on to video. Sometimes people don't do that in painting tutorials. I'm like, why wouldn't you brand yourself with your face, right? But you'll see painting channels where they never show their face. You're like, I mean, unless you're living under the Taliban, you really should have show your face, I think. It helps sell your brand. And he's showing the paint colors. I do this as well, so this is very smart, I think. Kind of gives you follow along instructions.
And here now I'll show you how to mix at least some of the colors. How to build them up using some linseed oils to get a better flow into the color.
So this is oil, so.
And so we basically mix a variety of colors from the darkest bluish tone.
So this is one of the nice things about oil. You can't really do this in acrylic. You can't, in acrylic you kind of mix, like you need a light blue, you mix it on the fly, use it, and then you need a warm blue, then you mix it with red, whatever, mix it, paint. And then you need a medium tone blue, you mix it, paint, right? So you kind of mix paint, mix paint, mix paint. In oil, since it dries, you can keep this palette up for 2-3 days and use it for 2-3 days with just saran wrap on top while it's drying when you're not using it. And then just, you mist it a little bit, and then you can, well, not mist it, but you take off that saran wrap and you can really reuse that paint for several days. So it gives you really, really cool opportunity to mix that color as you like, without the pressure of running out of the paint dry time you have with acrylic.
On top of the painting, down to the...
So we'll skip that part a little bit.
Blend the sky.
Let's paint the sky.
So basically build up this whole thing by applying the colors and then blending them, as you can see.
Yeah, this is a really cool effect you can do in oil, which you can't really do in acrylic that well, which is you kind of lay down the paint, it's kind of choppy, and then you can just take a dry brush and feather it in and get these really nice blends. In acrylic, it's much more difficult. You can use water to kind of thin out the paint, but then you have the problem of it dripping. So in acrylic, you'd really have a challenge to do this. You kind of have to mix paint, mix paint, mix paint, and it might look a little choppier than oil. You can get that really smooth blend in oil, which he's achieving here.
This took quite a while, but
so let's skip ahead a little bit.
Start at the back with a very fine brush and very fine marks to build up these waves here.
So this is a really good technique. I would suggest this as well, which is he's kind of masked at the line, so that line on the horizon's very flat. A very, very dark blue, and then he's doing the light blues on top, so it's a really nice effect there.
And the more you step to the front, the more larger these waves have to become.
Let's skip ahead a little bit.
Last thing where I have to get in some more details. Here now I establish the reflection part. And I get in some waves over to the part where the reflection will be set in.
So it's really just 2 colors right now. Let's skip ahead a little bit. Commercials! Ah!
That you have really the impression of the light bouncing off the top of the waves.
So it's really cool. You can see that dark and the light blue. And then I think he's taken a little bit darker blue here and there to kind of mix that up between the dark and the lighter blue. And you see he's adding kind of this very, very light, it's probably a white mixed with just a touch of blue to kind of be a little bit off-white. You don't want a pure white usually.
As you can see here. And then I premixed some yellowish color and start to add those starlight effects that we need to resemble the reference material. Basically put in the...
skip ahead a little bit.
...of the reflections.
It's interesting, I don't use that much white, like concentrated the way he has, but the waves can look like that.
So some more details. The waves.
It has a very photorealistic look though, so from that perspective it's really spot on if you want to copy exactly how the photo looks. I personally don't like to kind of copy straight to the photo. I like to kind of interpret the photo a little bit and live it a little more painterly. I mean, obviously he has a really good technique, I'd say, with the waves. The more he paints this, the more realistic it looks. It's really impressive, and he's got these really nice side accents.
Yeah, going over this whole thing with the dagger brush and yeah, melting it into the blackish color that we have beneath. And this is the finally the finished painting.
So very, very cool reflection. I don't know if that sun looks right because it's kind of like this whitish sun on the. I mean, you can have a mystical sun. I guess this makes sense if you go to the Nordsee, which is the North Sea above Germany. It's straight in the Atlantic. It's very deep water, and so you're not going to have any of that turquoise you might have in a Caribbean Sea. Or the Pacific might be a little bit green, but not as blue. This is just kind of like a solid blue. There's very little green in here. It's just like a dark blue, a lighter blue, and then it's kind of medium blue, a little mix, and that's all he's using really for the wave, but they look fantastic. And then he has this light reflection, which, again, it kind of doesn't look right with the sun, but he's probably just not finished. I mean, he probably paint the sky and it'll turn out way different. So, you know, I would just look at this waves part of this. Let's go on to the next video. All right, this one is called How to Paint Clouds, Realistic Towering Cloud Painting Tutorial. Blah, blah, blah. I'd say it's very, very long titles in this, which is a good keyword, I guess.
Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, we're gonna paint this cloud painting here.
So the only thing I would say right off the bat, he talks to the camera, which is great, but he's very low key, low energy, so you need to really kind of amp that up, I'd say. For Germans, it makes sense. The Germans are way more chill. In person, they're not really like punchy, wild in the face like Americans tend to be, so that is kind of how you talk in Germany. But to reach an American English audience, you need to kind of cross that bridge, so to say, and get that kind of American British feel, I think, a little bit. But obviously his painting is spectacular, so let's keep going.
Yeah, I will show you in this video here the whole process of underpainting and finishing the second layer of the cloud here in oil with all the details.
So he's kind of finishing up, so we'll start at the starting here.
This color transition between those colors here.
Again, he has that really nice effect where you can feather it in oil. You can't really do that in acrylic.
Painting. Now dry. Very flat, as you can see.
So again, to get that dry, that's going to be a week in oil. That's why I switched to acrylic. I'm like, dude, I ain't wait a week, dude. You wait like 10 minutes, 50 minutes in acrylic, you can start the next layer. It's like, to do what he's doing, where he puts his fingers all the way across, that's like a whole week. So
the plan was actually to paint this.
Let's skip ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
So here's a classic setup where you have
with the
colors
lighter
on one
outer part
side
here again,
and the painting on another side.
Basically, again, putting the colors side by side and starting to blend.
Yeah, this is really solid. Cloud mixing, where you mix kind of the colors really close. Acrylic, you have to mix way faster. You can do a similar effect. That's what kind of I do with my clouds. I might add like a dirty white. You don't want to use a pure white. You want to use that for the highlights only. So you use kind of a dirty white, and then you add like a lighter. He's using a bluish white there, and he's kind of mixing those two to kind of get those to blend.
This is now the detail shot of this whole scene. You see that the edges are pretty rough and pretty fading out in places here.
So let's skip ahead a little bit. It's a really nice detail shot as well.
The other part of the clouds.
So it's a very nice effect. He's using a bigger brush to kind of brush down the softer effects, because clouds have that. They have like some really fine detail, and then they have really kind of this smooth feel that you have, which you can do really well in oil.
So I basically build up this whole thing here. I'm using the nearly white color here to build up the highlights. And you also see that the edges are really very ragged, very rough, very random. And this is something that you need to put in when it comes to cloud paintings. And I also know these are very fine details, but I think these are really essential to...
And here he's done the time lapse to kind of speed it up so you can cover much more ground quickly. He might have a longer version on the Patreon where he does probably the full version, so he's just kind of doing the speed version here.
I get the effect of a cloud, this fluffiness. Most artists make the mistake that they put in basically slabs of color without any extensions, without any fine details. And this is something that you need to avoid.
Yeah, I would totally agree. You have like these little details that he has, which is the outline of the cloud, but then it kind of brushes in smooth. It's a really nice touch to how he's doing the clouds.
When you want to paint.
Let's skip ahead a little bit.
And now we're a bit more down the road here. And you see I'm getting darker with the tones. From the nearly white color on top to the now grayish, bluish color here. And one key thing is for painting clouds that you need to get in those layers. And that's what I do here now.
Yeah, totally. You got to layer your clouds. The more layers, the first layer look okay. It looked very amateur, like a very new student. But if you layer the clouds, you're gonna have these really beautiful effects. Obviously in oil, you're gonna have probably cooler effects in acrylic, but you can do a really good job in acrylic as well. Skip ahead a little bit.
Starts to come together, but it was not yet quite 3D looking. So I added here some more darker tones here to get in some more layers, some more depth to this part here.
And you can see some of the clouds are like a little bit dingy here. They're not like a pure blue. So he is mixing a touch of, it looks like yellow a little bit here and there. And so kind of that cloud in between. It's very dangerous to get green in your clouds, so it's kind of like you've got to be very careful. But I really like the colors he's using in the clouds. They're really nice. And the technique's really good. Like small brush and then brush it down.
You see we are still getting darker. I basically follow this basic rule here of trying to build up layers, trying to build up the 3D look, this whole thing. Therefore I add here some more lighter tones to get in another layer of depth. Same goes for this part here.
Very
Putting in
nice
colors, roughly.
Okay, let's skip ahead. I like that he goes in between, kind of out the full shot, and then he kind of details it in. It's a really nice way to do it. So again, he's time-lapsing it to do it faster.
Finer.
He probably has a full version of the
details here and
Patreon.
there.
Yeah, the highlights make all the difference, like these little touches.
The brightness.
It just kind of makes it from a pretty good painting to a great painting.
Finished.
So really spectacular clouds, very realistic, not exaggerated. They are very dark at the bottom, so it might be not as dark in reality, but that is a really, really good cloud. So he's definitely spectacular in the water and clouds. Let's see the next video. So this one is color mixing trick. How to really easy match any color. So it should be easily match any color. He's a little bit off on the English, but that's fine. I mean, he's German. He's not Native American or English.
Hey guys, welcome back. Today's video I will show you a little trick how to increase the chances of you mixing the colors right by just using your hand and a palette knife.
So this is a really nice thing. He has a headshot going straight into the camera, so you're talking straight. That's really great. You get kind of that branding, personal branding. He has his artwork in the background, which is really strong. I should have my artwork in the background. But it's just a reaction video, so I don't need that much because I'm going to be a tiny part of the screen. I'm going to be this big, right? So he has a shark. He has a sea life here. He has a fire there with a person fire breathing. And another painting. The only thing I would say is add kind of maybe heavy curtains on the other side of the room or soundproofing. I actually have a wall behind me is soundproofing, and he has a little bit of echo in here because there's a lack of soundproofing in the room. So if he adds curtains all across the wall, just hang them kind of artificial curtains, you know, like on a blank wall, you just put curtains up, but they're not really curtains. They're just curtains on a wall that doesn't need curtains. But if you do that, that'll really dampen the sound and give you a really rich sound with no echo in it.
So I guess we all know this problem that you try to do a painting and you try to mix the colors according to this reference material, and after you finished the painting you see that the colors don't really match. And I have to admit that this still happens to me even after 20 years of painting.
Now here I would kind of, if you want to paint hyper-realism and you want to copy the photo, that's fine, but then it's like, why copy a photo exactly? I think you can just interpret the colors. I think there's room to interpret the colors a little bit so it's off. I don't think the customer's gonna mind if they're slightly off. It is a real talent to be able to mix straight off a color off a photo. That is very helpful if you do that kind of style of, you know, copying straight the photo to art. A lot of realist painters work this way. I kind of work this way. I use the reference photo sometimes and then I just kind of use it as a check, but I don't get the perfect colors. I don't get the perfect, you know, shade and tone and all this stuff. I just kind of general colors, general composition, and then I kind of fine tweak it myself. So I would change it up, but he's doing more hyper-realism approach, so you have to be very exact to get it right.
I have found a trick that will help you, that helped me a lot to match the colors of your reference material much better than by just guessing them. And I use for this just the hand here and the palette knife. And the colors that you mixed, of course. So basically what you're gonna do is you just take your reference material, no matter if you work from a PC monitor or a printout, and you grab it and you enlarge it. The way that you see the color that you want to mix a bit better. And then you take your hand and form some kind of a circle kind of thing, like an iron sight, you know. Then you start to aim for the color that you want to mix. And you adjust the size of this circle here according to the color that you want to mix, and you make this circle here just as big enough and small enough to just aim for this color, this single one that you want to mix. Then you start to mix it, and then you aim for it, and then you grab some of the mixed color on the palette knife. Make sure that the palette knife is covered nicely with this color here and evenly. Then you grab it and push the palette knife with the color towards you into your sight.
So I think this is a really cool trick. I've never really used that myself. I just took the color and I put it closer to maybe the photo, but I don't stick exactly to the colors. If it's pretty close, I'm happy. So it's interesting to get, you know, those picture perfect colors. But again, it's kind of like you're copying the photo purely. I don't know how much, you know, a lot of people don't like that. I found out personally here because I've done a lot of realist painting just to sell easy stuff to the tourists, and then they're like, did you paint this from a photo? I'm like, oh shit, you got me. I'm like, man, I could have done original art, but the problem is, it's like, you know, the original art that's really distinctly yours, sometimes it doesn't sell right off the bat, so it's just easier to paint like some realist, simple art. But yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing, and then this is a really nice trick I like that he's doing. Let's go ahead a little bit.
Even after 20 years of painting, helps me still today to get the colors much more matching the reference material. So I would really recommend you to give it a try, and you will see it's way better this way than just by mixing and guessing. You will see. I bet you will see. Just one Other important thing about this whole process here is that you need to make sure that the color is lit the way you want to have the painting later on lit when it starts, when it will hang on the wall.
Yeah, so it's really crucial, like when you paint, to paint with daylight, either raw daylight, if out of a window, it's really nice. Or if you don't have access to a good window, then use daylight bulbs, and then that'll give you a real feel of what the color should look like, because it's probably going to hang in a room with some daylight. So if you have it looks right in the daylight, it'll look fine in a less daylight. But if it doesn't look right in the daylight, it's only going to look good in the darkness, and you might not like that. So I would use daylight bulbs. Let's see what he says.
So you need basically the kind of light shining onto this palette knife the way you want to have the painting later hang on the wall. And also make sure that you don't get too close to the hand, that the shadow of the hand will fall onto the palette knife. So don't do it like this here, because then the shadow of the hand will interfere with the light, with the color on the palette knife. So make sure you have it nice lit from this side here, and then you basically aim for the color you want to mix, adjust the circle size-wise here.
So I think we get the feel of this painting. It's a really nice video, a little trick. He's made it 5 minutes long somehow. I mean, to me, it's like a 20-second video, but he's been able to stretch this to 5 minutes, right? So that's hands off to him. And then looking at his website, just looked at his website really briefly. He kind of has, it's weird because it kind of comes up and then it kind of doesn't. He's like home, he has a gallery and a shop. I don't know why people do a gallery and a shop. I used to do that, but it's just kind of complicated. Commissions, tutorials, contact. I don't know what his disclaimer is about. AGB, I don't know what this is. I'm curious what the AGB is. Is that like something about the warnings about? Oh, this is in German. Okay, so this is his events kind of page, and it's all in German. So what I would probably do for this is I would just have a little button at the top of this page and say English German, and that way you can switch the whole site to English or whole site to German, and then you won't have this kind of I guess he probably has to have this disclaimer because he's in Germany and there's going to be privacy issues, so you have to be very careful how you set up your website, much more in Germany than say in the US. But yeah, I would do that, probably English and German, and just have like a little button at each page, like you want to switch to German, you want to switch to English, right? And just have it natively populate in English. There's a bigger population of English speakers than there is German speakers, so you're probably going to sell a lot in America, so you might as well do both. And then they can just have a little button up there at the top that says English, German, and switch. And just have the flags, probably like an American flag or a British flag if you want to be a little more neutral, maybe. British, and then you have German flag, and then people can just click those buttons and be like, oh, that's the language group. Click, 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 right? But you might just want to say English and German. Anyway, but I think he has a really solid YouTube site. He doesn't have that many subscribers, only 44,000. He is extremely talented. I think he just needs to maybe make those videos a little more interesting, but he has a pretty solid painting tutorial technique, so I would definitely watch him for that. If you're learning as a student, you probably don't really care if he doesn't speak English exactly right or not as enthusiastic as an American painter, because you're really looking for the techniques, the painting, how to mix, how to composition. He has all that, right? So that's what you want to go for this guy. He looks like he's mostly waves and clouds so far in a lot of his videos. He has a little bit more, but primarily he's done a lot of those type of videos because his strength is in those videos. And at the top he's like new video every Sunday, which you can commit to, but then it's kind of like you go on vacation, you're screwed, right? Because then you got to record like 2 or 3 videos ahead of time and then line them up. You can do that. You can totally do that. You can do 3 or 4 videos, and if you got like 3 or 4 in the can, and then just kind of like, okay, you got your own schedule then at that point if you got 3 or 4 ahead. But if you start to be behind, this is gonna be really brutal if you have to do it every week at a certain time. It's not that hard for a painter to paint more than once a week, so it should work out. But me personally, I just wouldn't stick to a schedule. I usually just try to upload as much as possible, so I do it a little bit different, but it does. You can really track a lot of live viewers if you want to do live video and have it uploaded at a certain time frame. So that's not too bad from that perspective, but again, it's just, I wouldn't commit to a schedule. Just more stress than you need. Anyway, I hope you guys like it. Give me a thumbs up. If you like to subscribe, you can subscribe below. And I'll see you on the next artist reaction video.